The bad news is that actually caregiving is bad for your health. So caregivers report, not surprisingly really, higher levels of stress, anxiety, depression than non-caregivers. Some studies report that up to 70% of caregivers have clinically significant symptoms of depression, and 25 to 50% of these caregivers actually meet the diagnostic criteria for major depression. That's pretty serious. And as we have higher levels of anxiety, stress, and depression, that can sometimes lead to higher alcohol and substance use. So not that it always does, but that can have longer lasting health effects as well. In 2005, 60% of caregivers reported either a fair or poor health status, at least one chronic condition or disability, and that's compared with only 1/3 of non-caregivers. And finally, older spousal caregivers, so these are folks ages 66 to 96 who experience caregiving-related stress, and I would think who wouldn't experience caregiving-related stress, have a 63% higher mortality rate than non-caregivers of the same age, meaning that what if you're an older caregiver and you die before your loved one whom you're caring for dies? Then what happens? Is there a plan in place, or could you have somehow prevented that by getting extra support? So we really want to make sure that caregivers are getting the support that they need in order to be able to care for the people they're caring for. Has anyone ever been on an airplane? Okay, so this will look familiar. They always say, put your own oxygen mask on before you're helping others. So there's a reason for that, because when we help ourselves, then we're able to help others. If we're unable to breathe, then we can't help someone else breathe, right? Just imagine that cartoon when you're caregiving. So as I said, caring for yourself is really the number one thing you can do as a caregiver, because when you care for yourself, when your needs are taken care of, then you can take care of someone else's needs. If you have a cell phone, again, you wouldn't let the cell phone battery drain out, so it's the same thing. How do we care for ourselves? Well, there is a handout actually that talks about emotions, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But you have a right to all of your emotions. Not all of the emotions around people whom we love are positive, right? There's a lot of complicated feelings, particularly with caregiving. So I just want to acknowledge that you have a right to all of your emotions. Getting a sense of whatever the disease may be, so learning more about the disease, learning what to expect down the road so that you're better prepared. Learning the skills you need to take care of your care recipient, of your loved one, because like I said, caring for someone with congestive heart failure is going to be different than caring for someone with dementia. Or maybe they have both conditions or other multiple conditions. So there's going to be a lot of things to learn. How do we learn those skills? I'll get to that. Saying no. So we're not talking about Nancy Reagan just saying no. We're talking about say no to the things you can't do, right? Because again, if you burn yourself out, who's going to take care of your loved one? Really being able to accept help from others. It's so hard to accept help, right? But being able to say yes to accepting help, then that will help you to keep going. So accepting help from others can mean having a list ready of things that, a random neighbor or friend or someone who says, oh, I want to help, let me know if I can help. That's not really that helpful, because they're not giving you anything specific and you're not giving them anything specific. But if you say to them, what would be helpful is if you could make dinner for these nights. Great, I can do that. Or, oh, hey, I know you're really good at crocheting, and my mom has been really cold recently. Well, not like you don't have blankets in the house, but at least make them feel more useful, and they're kind of helping you in a sense, right? So there's lots of different ways. One of my favorite quotes, because I need to use it on myself often, is perfection is a fiction of the mind. So nothing is perfect, right? But we do our best, and that's how we make things work, by also making sure that we're using all of these other suggestions as well. But I want to say the big three for being able to successfully cope with most things, but particularly around caring for someone else, where you're really putting out your physical and your emotional energy on anyone, is to eat right, at least most of the time, get some exercise in whatever form that is, and to try to get as much sleep as you can. These are all really difficult things to do when you're stressed out and caring for someone. So proper rest is considered generally 7 to 9 hours per night. I feel lucky if I get that generally, but you know what? We can try our best. So whatever that means, going to bed, 10 minutes earlier one night, 10 minutes earlier the next night, trying to wake up a little bit later if you can, just making small adjustments here and there, whatever you can do. Or if it means having someone stay over at your, let's say in your home, where your loved one is also living, where you're caring for them, if it means having someone else stay over there to deal with their nighttime needs, if possible, a few nights a week, so you can get some additional sleep, kind of meeting your needs as best as you can. Research says that sitting is the new smoking, right? So trying to get up and move around as much as possible. You might not be doing 45 minutes of cardio at a time, but if you take a 5 or 10 minute walk, or you do some jumping jacks, or you do some stretching, something where you're getting your blood pumping and your body is moving around a little bit, then that's going to be better than nothing. And also eating nutritious food. Well, of course, when we're stressed and we're overtired, what do we go for? Junk, right? Yeah, most of the time. I prefer the sweets, not the salty, but everyone has their thing. And so yes, we can allow ourselves those things at times, but it's also really important for our bodies, both in the short term, because we'll feel better in the short term, and in the long term, as far as preventing other chronic diseases, to eat nutritiously. So we'll feel better short term, and we will have better long-term health consequences by eating right. So those are the top 3, but also, I'm sure you've heard all these before. So learning and using stress reduction techniques. It doesn't mean you have to go to an hour-long meditation at a faraway temple every night. No, you can do something that makes you feel better. So you can go outside or look outside a window for a few minutes and just daydream for a few minutes. Probably we all have a few minutes every day that we can use for ourselves. Maybe doing some deep breathing, or taking 3 deep breaths just to clear our heads a little bit. That takes a few seconds. Maybe lighting a candle and focusing on that for a few minutes, so you can just contemplate a few things from your day, or imagine what you would buy on Amazon if you had all the money in the world. Just little things to take your mind off of the current situation. Some people find a lot of they find it very soothing to draw or color, whatever kind of helps you just for a few moments or a few minutes. That's really gonna have some nice long-term effects. And also seeking, and again, I know I've said this before, but seeking and accepting support, so you can take time off from being the caregiver without feeling guilty. There are many support groups for most conditions, actually, out, especially in the Bay Area. There's tons of support groups. If you find that support groups and group situations are not your thing, if you can find a therapist to talk to one-on-one, or a friend that you can go out with on occasion while you've gotten support, so you can take that time off. And I'm going to talk about respite care as well. Respite care, so you can get a break, again, without feeling guilty. You'll have your loved one taken care of during that time, and you can do something that you want and need to do.